What does Age of Sigmar mean to me? A lot of my life is Age of Sigmar related. You can have an incredibly fun weekend going 5-0 or 0-5. And that just relies on your opponents to agree to your social contract. To be like, this is going to be fun for both of us, and we're going to have a fucking good time. I mean, do you want me to say I'm a director at the company? Founder? I don't know if that's as helpful. It feels like bragging. My name is Jiwan Singh. I work in real estate development and in a private equity company called EOS Investors in New York City, but I'm mostly remote. When I'm in New York, because it is a very expensive city, the space is at a huge premium, and recently our RTTs have been, for some reason, the same weekends as GTs. So when I'm in Vermont, no one's around. When I turned 30, I realized that I was married and had a career and didn't need to hide the fact that I was a gigantic nerd from everyone, which is not a particularly unique story in wargaming. I go to tournaments roughly once every 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes there's a month in between. It depends on schedule. And then that's fairly new. That's probably the last 2 years. Before then, I never went to tournaments other than like once a year. I live on Discord. The way that I engage mostly, because I live in a very remote area most of the year, is through Discord, and by way of Discord, TTS is how I get all my practice games in. And the way that I love watching things on Twitter. I don't post that often other than when I'm challenging Anthony for things. But the main way that I engage with the community is through Discord and through hobby hangs on there with my chosen circles in that place, and with going to tournaments and getting to see my friends. My favorite tournament people, I love competitive tournament players in Age of Sigmar. It is a self-policing group of people who keep each other like kind and loving, but also play hard as nails. At least in the United States, where we have just an incredible group who is there and knows it's for fun, but also wants to figure out if their brain ideas work in real life, right? Like, is someone actually going to challenge you? And so my favorite people, I love Joe and Jacob so much. I love all the tough crowd. Outside, Gavin's recent arrival into leaving Texas has been wonderful, and he's slowly coaxed the other Texans out. I love those guys. Love the West Coast people. Jeremy is great at tournaments. I mean, he's great in general, but also at tournaments. I think that some of the reasons, like, Gavin is the coolest, like, least emotive player in terms of, he's not trying to dominate the conversation at the table or whatever, but he is 100% having someone have a good time, and that's important to him in the same way. Similar to Bill. Like, Bill will be doing something completely brilliant to you, and at the same moment be legitimately concerned whether or not you are enjoying the experience of playing him in a tournament. And that's, he's who I learned a lot of tournament play from. And so, like, massive, for me, when I realized that like 50% of this is making sure it's a cooperative experience. And you both paid a lot of money and did a lot of energy, particularly in the United States where we are flying places to go to a tournament. Someone has committed their entire weekend to that. Don't ruin it by being just terrible over something that is war dolls that in the rest of your life does not matter. Joe and Jacob, both good players. What they bring, though, like, as all-stars, is the socialization and the, like, their commitment to making it fun for everyone and making everyone in the hall laugh and like have a good time, or, you know, do this event, like is huge. Like most people would never be like, we're going to have our own tournament in a castle and we're going to like play really good Warhammer, but we're also going to have like the best weekend of your lives. And just being like, I'm committed to everyone having a good time around them. It's really, really wonderful. They're so good. Yeah. Individually, my wife is wildly competitive and says things like, of course you can go to the tournament if you can go win it. And I'm like, no. That's no. Yeah, no, my wife started crying when I said this. I was in a bath. She was asking me about what I was going to go to, events, etc. And I was just kind of talking, probably sort of rambling, and said that, you know, that my goal is not to win the ITC, not to, you know, do any of that. That's great if it happens or not. But the goal is to make 5 new friends and leave there with people who send you messages, follow up, want to be your friend, and have like an incredible time with other people. And she was just like, you don't have that as adults in other spaces. Like, you never go somewhere and you're like, I'm going to meet new people who share the same dumb thing that I'm obsessed with in a regular like setting. It just doesn't happen. And then get to spend 3 hours one-on-one with them, which is a very emotionally, tournaments are actually like weirdly emotionally raw places where like you can, because there is a winning and losing element, and because the amount of time commitment you've spent before you get there is massive, you end up like really having a lot staked in how you do at the tournament and also how those games go. And so you don't take that from people. And I think a lot of people, if you really think about it, are trying to make everyone's experience better. And then sometimes you get a little bit too competitive and too into the idea of winning, rather than remembering that, you know, I've painted 100 dwarves or in my case this weekend, I've glued a lot of goblins on bases and I'm going to run these idiots around and stab people with them. And someone else has agreed to stand across from me and let me live this narrative, and we've built this story of this game together. And like, that's what we're doing. But there is a competitive element, which is like, can I take these, in my, again, this weekend case, really, really bad rules and figure out a way to make them actually, you know, kill something and hold some points and, you know, do the mechanics of the game. And for me, it's like, that's like such a good relationship building element for friendships in your life. Like, you're doing something together. I'm sure there are plenty of other hobbies that people, you know, go play pickup golf with someone or whatever. But like, for me, this is the most interesting one, and it's the way that I can go and do that. I am on a Warhammer team. They're called the Tough Cloud, and what we are is sort of like a vaporous entity that just sneaks in under your doors and worms into your life. Tough crowd. Tough crowd. From its birth. I'm also on a national team currently. If I'm bringing a new list and I'm prepping for an event, I try to play 10 games. Someone said that once, and it really latched in my brain a long time ago. I generally do not achieve that, but I'm not a list builder from the ground up. I like to see a concept and then try to tweak it. And for me, I play TTS a little obsessively when I have time. Try to find people, run something, re-rack, run it, I don't have a local scene. I have to drive 2.5 hours to get to an RTT. And so for me, it's a lot of kind of like walking the dog, looking at war scrolls and tripping over things, and then coming up with a list. I prep, make sure the army's packed, get everything going, but I always lay it out at least once or twice on a table for the mission pack for each mission so that I know just at least the rough concept. And of course I'll be reactive to what someone else does, but I don't want to be completely taken off guard that I accidentally brought too many things that don't fit in a deployment well, or don't know the distances I need to be to get on the points turn 1 if I'm given top or something, right? And so my prep is a lot of listening to a podcast or being on a Discord chat and kind of wiggling things around and staring at them, and not much actual in-person gaming. The thing I like the best about competitive Warhammer, when it's a really good game, is when someone catches you completely off guard and you realize they've done something completely brilliant you've never thought about and you can think about for a really long time. Or sometimes you come up with that yourself. In which case you should not make crow noises and flap your arms at the opponent because you've just beaten them. But depends on how it's been going socially between the two of you. You see people just do brilliant things where you're like, wow, the way your brain works is great. I've told a lot of my coworkers that I do this. They constantly ask where they can watch it. They don't seem to be particularly interested in really figuring out what it is. But when you tell someone you're really into something and you're passionate about it and you want to talk about it, people tend to just want to hear a little bit more and hear where you're going and what you've been doing and why and what you get out of it. They seem to be really, no one has ever, I don't think anyone has ever mentioned anything negative about, saying, most people are like, I really didn't see you saying that coming. And that's great. That's amazing. Someone calls me, I'm like, hey, I'm at a tournament. I'm between rounds, so to give you a call back. And they always are like, how are you doing? But they do they have latched onto successes and not really remembered the less successful ones. So I think they think I might be the best wargamer in the world. But I'm not sure. They seem to, my mother has definitely said that in my earshot, and I've been like, no, that is not true. Trying to get there, let me explain to you. Goals with gaming. Go to more GTs, do better. Don't make mistakes. I think the goal for me is always, I'd like to win more games than I expect with a list, and I tend to be a little down on myself on how many I think I can win, but being able to do it through just kind of like understanding the game and understanding what the win conditions are for you and then achieving them is something I need to focus more on. I really like when you're like, oh, I don't have to fight you. I'm just gonna move in the way. Go ahead. And that to me is like, you start out just wanting to go kill things and you're like, I'm gonna create all this kill blob. And then you're like, oh, now I'm gonna be conservative and then I'll kill you. And then it's like, when you can combine and blend the two and be completely situationally variable to what you need to do with what your list does, that's when you're kind of in the flow state of gaming, and that's what I'd like to be able to do. You should always want to play good players and get beaten by them. Getting beaten by dice doesn't feel good, but getting beaten by someone actually outplaying you should be a wonderful experience. They're like, that's great. You're gonna remember this for the rest of your life as a great game, and one of our brains and some luck is going to win this, but that doesn't matter. What matters is I'm here to make 5 friends, or if I'm playing someone I already know, have a great game with them as well.